At the beginning of the film, a couple is on their boat in the middle of the ocean. After drinking heavily, the alcohol takes effect, causing them to lose their way. After some time, they spotted a large island in the distance and decided to go there to try to get help. The woman decided to continue looking for someone who could help them, while her boyfriend stayed at the dock and tied up the boat. While walking through the forest, the woman found a suspicious facility surrounded by a fence and barbed wire. The woman began to call for help, but when she received no response, she decided to return to the boat. While walking back, he started hearing strange noises from the trees. Fearing that wild animals might catch him, he started running as fast as he could. Feeling surrounded, the young woman began calling out to her boyfriend, who was unfortunately too far away to hear her screams. Realizing that his partner could not save him, he tried to run again but was caught by a fierce creature that dragged him towards their lair. The woman tried to cling to a tree, but the monster bit her finger. And when he couldn't fight anymore, he just gave in. A few years later, brothers Matt and John flew on their plane to the same island with their childhood friends, Noah, Sarah, and Nicki, Matt's girlfriend. It turns out that before it was abandoned, there were a few residents on the island, including the brother's uncle. After not visiting the area for many years, the group decided to spend the weekend at the abandoned house to have some fun away from civilization. When they got there, the brothers went to the garage where the generator was located. They took the opportunity to check if their uncle's old car was still working and were surprised to see that it was still working. Inside the house, Sarah and Noah were tasked with gathering supplies and preparing a special drink to celebrate their arrival. Once Matt and John had fixed the generator, Sarah eagerly turned on the blender. But a few seconds later, the power suddenly went out. It was not known what had happened. The two decided to check the fuse in the basement, which was completely dark due to the lack of power. Noah used his lighter to illuminate the surroundings, and while exploring, they found a wine cellar with a lot of bottles of wine and went to get them. After the power was restored, Sarah started making drinks and everyone started getting drunk. After a few hours of swimming, the group went to the balcony of the house where they watched John practice target shooting with his bow. Moments later, a cute puppy appeared on the lawn, and the two friends immediately fell in love. That night, when they had finished their drinks, Noah went to the kitchen to get one of the bottles they had found in the basement. And when he opened the door, the puppy came with him. As Noah opened the bottle, the once pleasant puppy seemed to be very angry and started growling at him. When Noah returned to the living room and started telling everyone what had happened, the puppy ran out of the house through a hole and onto the lawn. But because Sarah really liked the little animal, she decided to go out and look for it with John, who offered to help her. Using a flashlight, the friends found the puppy. But as they approached, a large dog leapt towards Sarah. When John arrived to help his friend, the enraged animal bit the woman's leg for some unknown reason and then ran off into the forest with its puppy. On the possibility that the dog had rabies, Nicki insisted that they should return to the city the next day to begin treatment. However, John said that treatment was not necessary immediately and that they could return after the weekend. However, he left the decision in Sarah's hands, believing that the attack was to protect the puppy and that he did not want to disrupt his friend's short vacation. Later that night, John got up to get a glass of water and saw Sarah staring blankly at the window. When he tried to talk to the woman, she didn't respond and started to approach him. As soon as she got close to the man, he started kissing her so hard that it hurt. When John complained, something triggered in the woman's mind, and she asked John to leave. The next morning, while the group was eating breakfast, Sarah was seen to be unusually hungry.
I'm still hungry. Knock yourself out.
As soon as they finished their meal, John took out his bow and arrow to go target shooting in the forest, and because they were bored, the other men decided to go with him while Nicki stayed to accompany Sarah. In the middle of the forest, the men saw no signs of other animals, and because there was nothing else to do, Noah separated from the group and sat on a tree to clean his camera. While cleaning the lens, he began to hear growling around him. Terrified, he began to search for the source of the noise and found himself surrounded by many dogs. In an attempt to escape with his life, the man ran through the forest until he tripped over a root and was eventually found by his friends. As soon as Noah mentioned the dogs, the girlfriend of the woman who had been mauled by the dogs appeared behind them. The man said the dogs didn't like anyone on the island, but he didn't have time to explain why. While he was speaking, a huge dog jumped on him. He was knocked down the hill and swallowed alive along with his dog. The three of them ran towards the house in great fear, and when they were close to it, they saw the women also being chased by the animals. The men then ran to try to help the two, and as they were about to enter the house, one of the dogs managed to bite Nicki's leg. To save her, John took out his bow and shot the ferocious dog. But his shot hit the young woman's leg, causing her severe pain. But he still managed to drive the animal away. Once inside the house, Matt cut the arrow with the flyers and began to remove it. While preparing the bandages, the man tried to understand what was happening and told his friends why the place had become abandoned. Many years ago, a company rented part of the island to build a dog kennel that would train the animals to be guides for the blind. But after a few years, one of the animals became infected with rabies. Because they were confined to one area, the disease spread to the other dogs and managed to escape the training center. Matt is now wondering how they survived after being infected for so long. Upon learning this, Noah panicked. But his screams attracted a dog that jumped out the window and knocked him to the floor. As soon as the dog got up, the animal rushed at Sarah, but Matt stopped it. Realizing that the house could not be saved, the group gathered their belongings. And as they were leaving the house, they noticed that two of the feral dogs were at the pier where the plane that brought them to the island was. Matt said that they would be better off waiting for the animals to leave. But after a few minutes, Noah looked out the window and saw that the plane was already drifting in the water because the dogs had bitten the rope holding it. Eventually, with no sign of the dogs, the group cautiously made their way to the pier. John jumped into the water to swim to the plane. But as he got closer, his other companions saw that the two who had cut the rope were actually hiding on the wing. The animals jumped into the water and began swimming towards John, who was hurrying back to the pier to avoid being caught. Once they were all on the pier, one of the ferocious dogs tried to attack them, but Noah managed to drive it away with his baseball bat. When they got the chance, they returned to the house and were almost mauled by the other dogs. Realizing the ferocious dog's abilities, the group began reinforcing the windows and cracks in the house with wooden planks. After this, Noah tried to call emergency services, but there was no cell phone signal. Matt and John wrapped the body of the dog that tried to attack Sarah in a cloth and threw it outside, in order to survive. The group decided to head to the other side of the island where there was a boat. With the plan in place, the men decided to go to the garage to try to get the old car running again. But when they came out, some wild dogs rushed towards the dead animal that the brothers had thrown away and started eating it. Seeing the dogs outside, the three went back inside the house and decided to make another plan. Matt planned to reach the garage via a rope connecting the two buildings. But to do this, he needed the pulley on the zip line outside. The man took advantage of the dog's distraction and ran to get the pulley. Despite trying to be careful, one of the dogs spotted him, but he managed to get back inside safely. In the next scene, Matt is seen attaching the policeman to a rope connected to the garage. Despite Nicki being injured, he convinces his girlfriend that since she is lighter, she should check the car. When everything was ready, Nicki began to slide down the rope and reached the other side. However, the insatiable dog saw her hanging like a piece of meat and ran towards her. Meanwhile, the friends were trying to distract the dogs. As soon as Nicki entered the garage, she got into the car and tried to start it, but it showed no signs of life. Meanwhile, the dogs outside were trying to get in and managed to make a hole in the gate. Nicki then climbed up the sunroof and had to cling to the wooden structures of the garage to avoid being eaten outside. The group pulled her back into the house, and as the dogs jumped to reach her, John shot one of them, saving Nicki's life. That night, the power suddenly went out, and, believing it was a blown fuse, Noah volunteered to go to the basement alone to reconnect the power. When he reached the lower floor, he began to hear strange noises coming from a compartment where a scary doll was hanging at the entrance. When Noah approached the source of the sound, a dog jumped out and grabbed him by the neck. Hearing the commotion, and John rushed to the basement entrance, but found their friend dead. Then they locked the door to keep the dogs out. But it didn't help much because it was outside. Many dogs were in wild mode and started breaking the wood on the window so they could get inside the house. The group then decided to run to the attic, but as they neared it, Matt was grabbed by one of the demon dogs and began to bite him, but John saved him by holding the animal back. With everyone upstairs, the house was now completely overrun by dogs. With the few supplies in the attic, they had to come up with a plan to get out as quickly as possible. At dawn, the group left the attic to see if the animals were still in the house. But they seemed to have left, so the brothers went to the garage, and while John was driving, Matt pushed the car until it started. But because of the noise it made, the dogs were able to find them and started chasing them. Then the younger brother jumped on the roof of the car and used his bow to try to hit them. But when one of the animals climbed onto the hood of the car, John had to swerve, causing Matt's arrow to fall. Without having to get out to push, John went to the cliff to gain speed and tried to restart the car. Although it was a bit of a stupid idea, it worked and they almost fell off the cliff. The idea was stupid. It worked. And they almost fell off a steep cliff. When the car finally started, the brothers returned home. But on the way, a ferocious German shepherd jumped out the window and almost bit Matt. However, John saved him by pulling the car over to the side, causing the animal to crash into a pole. Back home, Sarah had given up on living and refused to run away with them. In an attempt to convince Sarah, John approached her, but at that moment, a dog appeared in the room. Determined to avenge the infection, Sarah ordered John to flee through the window while she fought the monster. Despite his reluctance, John fled through the window. Realizing that he could not defeat the ferocious dog, Sarah tried to throw it out the window. But they both fell on a sharp tree, which caused their deaths. Seeing that they could no longer help their friend, the three got into the car and began driving towards the other side of the island, while other hungry dogs ate the pierced body. When they reached the other side, the group decided to enter the facility to try to call for help via the radio. But during their exploration, they discovered that it was not a facility for training guide dogs, but a laboratory that modified the animals' genes to become combat machines. It turns out that the rabbis didn't actually infect the animals, but modified them to the point where they were out of control. As soon as they reached the radio, Nicki saw through the window that the transmitter tower line had been disconnected, and John volunteered to reconnect the wires. She then left the building, and as she climbed up, she saw the couple's boat from the beginning of the film docked nearby. When John gave the signal, Nicki turned on the amplifier to increase the distance of the radio signal. But when she pressed the button, a short circuit occurred that started a fire in the building's wiring and electrocuted John, causing him to fall from the top of the tower. As the fire spread throughout the area, the dogs found them and managed to dig under the fence to attack John, who received several bites. Seeing that his brother needed help, Mata grabbed his baseball bat and ran to help him fight off the animals. Inside, Nicki opened a gas cylinder valve and let the dogs in. When she felt there was enough liquid in the air to cause an explosion, she opened the door. The gas was allowed to reach the fire, which started a fire that killed all the dogs inside. Meanwhile, outside, Matt and John were surrounded on all sides. And just when they thought they had no hope of survival, Nicki showed up in a car and plowed through the dogs. Once everyone was inside, the trio drove to the boat's location and dropped the car into the water. As the ferocious dogs approached, the group managed to get out of the sinking car and safely made it to the dock. After boarding the boat, they escape to the island and see the animals watching them from afar. Later, while the group is at sea, they are surprised to see that they have another dog with them, and this is where the movie ends. Please press the like button if you liked the movie, and if not, press the dislike button twice just to be sure.